back to the channel. So today we're going to do another review of an IWC watch. As with the previous IWCs I've reviewed, this one also belongs to my friend Mark, and it happens to be another Mark as well. It's the Mark XVII. He's very passionate about this brand. He actually visited Schaffhausen, so he's seen the manufacturing, and it's something that's very passionate for him. And I really appreciate him sharing this watch with me so I could get to check it out. And it's one I probably would not have been able to check out otherwise, as it was something that I would not have personally picked up myself, but I'm really happy that I got to experience it and check it out. So with all that said, guys, let's go ahead and jump to the review. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. So today is another watch that I'm reviewing for my best friend Mark. I've reviewed many of Mark's pieces on the channel, including his Le Petit Prince and his other Mark 16 piece. This is the Mark 17, and as you can tell, my friend Mark definitely has an affinity for the IWC brand. And it's kind of cool that he does, because usually when I review pieces on my channel, they're pieces that I've bought personally or have experience with. So you're basically only going to get to see pieces that are of my exact taste and watches that I would have bought. And while I've always had a healthy respect for IWC, I can say that in all likelihood I probably never would be one to pick one up. So it's really cool that he's been nice to let me borrow his pieces for review, because I get to experience watches that never would have been ones that I personally would have experienced otherwise. So this is the Mark 17. This is a little bit bigger than the Mark 16 that I've reviewed in the past. In particular, the case size on this is going to be 41 millimeters. So it's a very good wearable size. This is a perfect size for a modern day sports watch. It's very similar in size to an Omega Seamaster, for example, or a Rolex Submariner, or even a Breitling Colt. This is a very good wearable size, perfect for a man with a good size wrist, but also a lady. I could definitely see a woman wearing a larger sports watch, and I think a 40 millimeter case, I don't want to say unisex, I think that's not quite the word, but I definitely could say that a woman and or a man could easily wear this piece. And one of the things that's really nice about this watch is the bezel itself is very, very shallow. And that means you have this great oversized dial. So when you compare this watch to similar watches of 41 mil, it actually looks that much bigger and wears that much larger without being too chunky on the wrist. You get really good legibility. And of course you have this beautiful classic style Flieger looking dial with these lovely Arabic numerals. Now as I rotate it, you may be picking up a little bit of the anti-reflective coating on this sapphire crystal. So as you look as I rotate, you can actually see my chandelier reflecting off of it. But it's really nice. The air coating is doing its job. If this was not air coated, you'd basically be staring at the chandelier and not the dial. So the air coating is nice. I think IWC does a very nice job with air coating, and they do seem to be much more robust than the coatings that I've seen on, say, a Breitling, for example. A lot of the Breitlings that I've owned, the air coating gets scratched. Most of the IWCs, they seem to hold up pretty well. So, I mean, this is a very utilitarian looking watch, and I mean that in a good way. I mean, this is a traditional fighter or a Flieger style watch, so you wouldn't want an overly elaborate case. You'd want something simple and kind of historic looking, and you're not going to be disappointed with this watch. So everything is brushed. There's nothing high polished really to it. It's just a very tasteful, understated look to it. This one comes equipped on a bracelet, which I'll talk about in a bit. However, I've seen quite a few of these also come equipped on a leather strap. So this uses the IWC 30110 movement. What it is it's a modified ETA caliber 2892, I believe A2, and IWC modifies it. I don't have an exact list of what all they change about it. I believe it's about a 42-hour power reserve. It is ticking at 28,800 beats per hour. So similar to Rolex, Omega, Breitling, a lot of the big brands, you're going to get that similar nice smooth sweep going around. Very elegant to look at. In regards to the movement itself, I've actually taken the case back off of my friend Mark's other Mark watch, which has the same movement in it. And in all honesty, you can see pictures of it actually on my Instagram, but I'm not a huge fan of the movement in terms of finishing. Having inspected the Cal 1120 and my Omega Seamaster Professional, for example, Omega did a really nice job of really updating that movement and doing a really nice finishing work on it. And looking at this IWC version of the 2892, I think the finishing actually is quite bland, and I was not really impressed when I examined the movement in person. Now, I can only comment on the aesthetics of the movement. I can't speak to what IWC has done to it. So for all I know, they've actually done quite a bit to it. But when you first take the case back off of an IWC like this, personally for me, it was a very underwhelming experience. And you know, IWC does more and more in-house movements these days, and I'm definitely a fan of their IWC in-house movements more so than these modified ETAs. There's nothing wrong with an ETA caliber, and the 2892 is a fantastic movement, don't get me wrong. But for a $5,000-ish retail watch, such as this one, I would expect to see more in all honesty. Now, one thing I absolutely love about the 17 is I love how they have this open date aperture. It's not just a single opening. You can get a little bit of the date before it and behind it, and I actually really like to look at that. It reminds me of like an altimeter in an airplane, and I mean that in the best possible way. I'm a huge aircraft enthusiast, especially commercial aircraft, and seeing something like that on the dial makes me very excited. Mark, being a good friend of mine, he and I have gone on trips together. We went to Seattle together actually last year and went to the Boeing Everett factory and visited the factory. So I know he's a big aircraft enthusiast like I am, and I can understand why he's attracted to a dial like this. So again, it's a very traditional Flieger style dial. You've seen these on a multitude of watches. IWC, of course, up here at 12, Schaffhausen, which is of course where IWC is currently based. Down here at 6, it says Mark 17, although it's being hidden by the minute hand, automatic, and then Swiss made. Very nice dial. It has a very slight texture to it, which hopefully you got to see a bit of in the introduction. It is very pretty, and again, it reminds me of manual aircraft instrumentation, which I love. I'm really sad to see all these aircraft going to glass cockpits. I love the manual instrumentation of Heuer, and this watch is very nicely speaking to that. It's a reasonably thin case. I apologize, I don't know the exact width, and it is a marked crown. It has the IWC logo and crest. And on the side as well with the case, you do find that continuation of the brushed finish, and there's a small taper to the lugs. Now the bracelet itself, I know a lot of people are going to be wondering, how do you size this thing, because there's no push pins and there's no screws. IWC did something interesting on this, and as far as I know, they're the only ones that are doing this. Whether or not that's a good thing is for you to decide. If you guys know in the comments if somebody else is doing this, please let me know. But actually the bracelet on this has these little circular ports on the bottom of it, and by applying pressure you can actually take the links apart. It's a very interesting system. As I said, I've never seen it before. It's a very different way of looking at it. Engineering are always very good at and gifted at finding different ways to do things. I think back in the 70s when Mercedes had the great Glosser Mercedes that had all the hydraulics in it. They take things that are very traditional and they find new ways of approaching them and looking at them. Sometimes it works out well, sometimes it doesn't. In terms of the execution on this bracelet, I will admit that I'm not a big fan of it, but I definitely think it's cool that they tried to do something different, and I do appreciate too that they've made the sides of the bracelet actually very clean. It's kind of cool in a way to see that there's no access points on it. The bracelet does actually kink a little bit. It's not overly fluid, and I'm guessing that's probably to do with the way that it is constructed. And again, it's all high brushed. Not high brushed, it is brushed. So I would say that I'm not personally a big fan of it, but I do appreciate, that aesthetics are in the eye of the beholder, and I do appreciate too that they tried to do something different with it. Now the clasp itself, I love the clasp, and this engine turning they have on it in particular, it reminds me of 1977, 79, those Bandit Trans Ams. If you guys are into cars, you know what I'm talking about. They did a very similar treatment on the dash, and they used to do it back in cars in the 30s as well. I mean, I think of some of the Cords and the Duesenbergs. I'm thinking they had really cool engine turn panels on the dash, and this finish is just something that I absolutely love. And I can't think of the last time I saw this on a watch clasp. I love that they did it, and there's even little bits of it hidden here on the inner parts of the clasp itself. I love that finish. I've never seen it, like I said, on a clasp like this, and I'm a huge fan of it. And the inside, they also did something interesting. So the clasp actually has a very similar kind of feature to a Rolex glide lock. So when actually you have here marked IWC, it's actually depressed. And when you depress it, you can take in and adjust slack. So instead of having a micro adjustment, they actually have a glide system, very similar to, I said, to what Rolex does. And it works really well. And I gotta say, I really like it, and I would love to have it on more watches. There's, you'll see, let me see if I can activate it this way. You can see how it slides in and out. Works really well. And you'll see there's all these screws too holding the system together. It's not just welded in place. They actually did a nice job finishing it. And the clasp has a very kind of mechanical feel to it. Even as I squeeze the deployance, you can see there's quite a cool mechanism they have working here in the background. There's a lot of engineering that went into this clasp, and the field engineer in me really appreciates the effort that they went through to do that. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of this clasp. The bracelet itself, I prefer to see this actually on a leather strap, but this clasp I think is very well done, and I'm a huge fan of it. And they have actually a high polish in the center where the logo is, and then it's brushed all the way around. Now the case back is a very traditional case back for IWC, International Watch Company. So if you guys are ever curious what IWC stands for, International Watch Company, and go ahead and flip it over here. Flieger, and then of course there's a serial number, and you have the detents to actually unscrew the case back. I believe, yeah, these are solid end links as well, and I believe this is about a 20 millimeter lug width there. So overall, a very nice watch, very traditional Flieger style watch. Like I said, this is not a watch that I think I personally would have bought myself, but I can definitely appreciate why my friend Mark likes it and why people like these watches in general. And on a leather strap, this is definitely something I would wear. And I've worn this for a while. He's let me borrow it. I let him borrow my Sumo, actually. So I do miss my Sumo a little bit, but I do have to say that I am really liking this watch, Mark. Thank you for letting me borrow it. And it's very cool to kind of look at, again, pieces that I wouldn't traditionally collect myself. Let me go ahead and just give you a wrist shot here. Go ahead and snap it on. And there you can see, so I have a wrist that's just under 7 inches. It is nicely slim, so you could definitely get this under a cuff. And like I said earlier, the nice thing is it's a 40 millimeter watch, but it wears a lot larger than that. So it's still comfortable on the wrist as a 41 millimeter watch would be, but because the bezel is so thin and the dial is so large, you have really good legibility. And at a glance, it's just really good to kind of look at quickly and quickly tell the time. It's got really good wrist presence and it wears bigger than it is. And I mean that in the best way possible. So with all that said, guys, let's go ahead and jump back. All right, thanks guys so much for watching that. I really hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you liked what you saw, please give me a thumbs up. It really helps me. And if you have any comments, questions, concerns, please leave them below. As always, I may not get a chance to answer them all, but I do try to read them as many as I can, and I really appreciate them. And if I can't answer your question, hopefully somebody else in the community can. So thank you guys so much for this. As I said, I really appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys in the next review, which if you haven't already, please subscribe somewhere around me. And I hope you guys are having an awesome day, and I'll catch you later. Thank you.